Hi there, my name is Jeremy. This is Red Beans Recording, and I thought it was time to do another Ableton walkthrough, one of the tracks that I created on the OP1. A lot of people ask for these things, so I like to do them sometimes. So here's one. This was for Lugent. It was the one that was released on the 29th of whatever, not too long ago. It's a sort of breaks drum and bassy one that had the teardrop sample in the final. So yeah, let's just jump into it really quick. The OP1 spits out 4 AFFF files that are mono. So these things that you see, track 1, track 2, track 3, track 4, those are the OP1 AFFF tape tracks that I brought in. And you can see that they have been chopped up and moved all over the place and doubled up and all kinds of crazy stuff. Because then you can do extra things to them and make them sound different and do pitch processing and all that kind of stuff. So I bring them in, I chop them up, try to give each sound its own distinct track, and then other times I'll just put things in other places, and we'll get to that in a bit. Screw it. All right, so the drums are up here. These were the original drums from the OP1. They've been chopped up and moved around. So not a ton to say here. Let's see what we got going on. I have used Ozone, which is a mastering plugin by Isotope. I've used a compressor in this case to help manage transients. The pocket operators that I sampled were very, very transient heavy. And I like to manage my transients and knock down those really sharp ones and knock down sharp frequencies so that I have more headroom when I get to mastering to make things sound bigger. So that's what a lot of the stuff going on here is subtracting frequencies and transients in order to manage things and make them sound bigger later. I'm doing a great job explaining this so far, so it's only going to get better from here. The first thing is this multiband dynamics, which is managing the bass. You can hear that. I needed to give more room to the actual bass, so I'm compressing the bass here. I'm managing the midtones and the highs. We have another Ozone instance here. Let's see what this is doing. Ooh, some more multiband compression. Never can get enough multiband compression. Of course not. You can see I'm using really, really short, in some cases non-existent attacks, mostly here. So you can see that these frequencies were dropped here, same area-ish, because there was this really nasty peck to the kick, especially over here. So that kick that's going doot, 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 it had a really sharp thing going on right in the nasty frequency area that really hurts my ears. So a lot of this is taking care of that. Little tiny bit of reverb, just a tiny, tiny, tiny bit. And that's what's going on there. One of the things that I did to add to the break sections where I wanted to come back in was give an extra oomph to the last beat of a break section. And I did that by taking a snare out of these samples, sticking it right here, and automating the reverb. So we're going to send a lot to the reverb, which is a convolution reverb down here. I love this convolution reverb from Max for Live. I use it all the time. It sounds amazing. A big, big plate with even more bigness because we increase the decay. So big and long. So that's what this sounds like real quick. So if you look over here while that's happening, see the reverb is automated for that one hit. That's it. Just big reverby sound. Love it. All right, great. So in some cases, and this is one of the things that reason I bring things into Ableton is because I love putting overdrive and saturation and doing really gross, terrible things to the audio that I did in the OP1. So these are the same track 4, same drums, and this one has a fair amount of drive and a very beautiful, beautiful EQ curve here. So in some cases, I sweetened that snare that I played for you earlier with this big distorted gunshot sound. You can see that the drive has been automated. Watch this drive thing right here. I really wanted to hit hard on that 4th beat, and then I want it to sort of like fall back into the mix. So that's what's going on with that. All right. I knew when I started making this track that I was going to end up wanting to put some classic breakbeats in it. Can't get more classic than that. You heard this has some pitch modulation on it, and I like to do this a lot also with the OP1 stuff. I end up creating a lot of weird effects and things that help push the song along by doing transposition automation. I'll show you more of that later. When I do that, I generally always use Complex or Complex Pro, because if you don't, check this out. Let's go ahead and loop this. Yeah, the pitch is going to smoothly go up now. If you change this to beat mode, which is the default, very, very different. Actually, that's pretty badass. I probably should have used that. So yeah, we got some amen break. We have this little Alice Cooper drum break, and then we have more amen, some classic chopping going on, and this little guy. Just all kinds of ways to fill things in. This final thing here is the main instance of the amen break. Like it comes in throughout the track, but this is like the loud version when the track's really, really kicking it. And I actually chopped it up using, if you have some audio here, you can go into it, right click on it and go to, where is it? Slice to new MIDI track. And it will slice on the transient. So you actually have a bunch of different options for slicing, but I, in this case, slice on the transient. So see all these little markers here? All these little things that kind of like hover over. They look like they're on big parts of the sound. Those are the transients, meaning the loud, obvious downbeat of the sound, so to speak. So that's what got chopped up. So each section here, like that, or between these transient markers, are what this turned into here. And when you play it back, it sounds the same. But it allows you more granular control over it, and I can now resequence this MIDI here. Like if I was to take, I don't know, let's do something crazy. Let's go into MIDI effects and let's grab a random and stick it on there. Because this is MIDI now, triggering each one of those little slices, I could, if I wanted to, randomize this or use other MIDI processing effects to make it different grooves, different ways of playing back. So you're done with drums, I think. Let's go down to bass. I did a fair amount of rearrangement with the way that the sections of this song are in Ableton as opposed to what they were on the OP1. The bass is one of the things that really changes the way that the track feels, either progressive or static. And so there's a lot of chopping of the bass up and moving it around. This is not the order I recorded it in the video, but this is a great time, it looks like, to talk about what what turned out to be the technical hook of the song, which is pitch processing. In Ableton, if you have an audio clip, and you hit this little E button here, you open up your envelopes, which are super useful. And in this case, this is the clip, and I want to affect transpose. You see you have other things here. Volume is very useful. Transposition will transpose the pitch of whatever audio you have there, and it will do it without changing the timing, because that's what Ableton is good at. So I did these octave shifts, sort of smooth octave shifts, to a lot of things in here, and we'll visit those as we go through. But in the bass, it adds this cool slippy kind of thing to it that I couldn't really get in the LP1. Let's look at the processing on the bass. We have an instance of Neutron. So Neutron is a track-based processor with a number of different things that you can apply. Some multiband compressors, multiband exciter, a multiband transient shaping, which is really cool, and equalization. So we have a little bit of drive to bring out some crunch in the bass, and we have a multiband compressor doing some stuff as well. I doubled the bass in some cases, and again, there's that overdrive that I love to use all the time, and some chorus. I felt like I really wanted to drill down and make sections like very kind of like powerful, less layered and I don't know, whatever. So what I did was I doubled the bass, ran it through an overdrive that's only hitting the 2.71 kilohertz. That's pretty high up on the frequency range, and it's 100% wet. So we're not hearing any of that low end from the bass. It's just going to be distorted. And then drop a chorus on it for some stereo effect and widening. And here's what the bass sounds like. And here's what it sounds like on this channel. And here's it doubling the bass over here. So you can see this section wouldn't be as cool at all without that. And this is why I bring my tracks into Ableton, is because I can just completely transform them. And it doesn't need to be Ableton. It can be any DAW. Like I'm saying Ableton because that's what I use. So don't get hung up on the tool. A series of arpeggiator lines that started the track out. So you can see them automatically. You can see off the bat that I did some convolution reverb send automation, and that was to move from dry to wet to dry to wet to change the feel of the space. Always want to kind of keep interest, keep something moving, keep something going, even if people aren't necessarily like directly aware of it. It's fun for me to have those things moving around and adding interest to the whole thing. Tiny bit of redux on here, tiny bit of downsampling to give it a little bit more crunch. See how it brightens it up? Like it's not, only need a tiny bit. If you do too much, it sounds cool, but that's not what I was going for. And then a little tiny bit of reverb. Again, very subtle, but it just kind of adds something. Maybe not for you, but for me. I don't know. Let's see, I have other automation here. Let me talk about that last send I have here. This is a free dub delay plugin. Tal makes really great stuff. And I do love myself some Bucket Brigade dub delay. It will feed back on itself and create some really screechy, neat feedback effects if you push it too hard or just a little bit. So the other thing it does is it will degrade over time, and that's what this damp is. It'll also degrade the low end and focus on the high end if I was to turn this up. So really useful in creating more interesting delay lines than you get out of the stock stuff in Ableton. So that's sitting there, and it gets some use as part of this breakdown here. More ARPs, more automation with reverb, and it looks like I dropped a auto filter on here to automate the frequency as a sort of way to bring it in. And again, over here, both of these are places where the vocals are kind of hanging out on their own. Carving out frequencies for the things that you want people to pay attention to is smart. So I use EQs, I use filters, all kinds of stuff, and I automate them throughout the track to make room for the things that I think are more important. And in this case, the vocals were fighting with this guy, so I just kind of sliced it out. This does have some transposition automation on it. So just another layer of intrigue over what already was recorded on the OP1. And it sounds really cool when you put this transposition thing on some of the more harmonically rich pads, which we'll get down to here in a bit. This solo channel here is dedicated to all of the video game soundy PO28 robot things that I recorded. More pitch automation. And you'll notice that it has an auto filter on it again because it was very bright and very taking up the frequencies that the vocals were. And that was fine in the OP1 because there was no vocals and I wanted everything to be big and up front, and this solo was the thing that had focus there. But once you drop the vocals in, it needed to be pulled back a bit. This guy is a group containing 2 tracks, hard panned left and right, and it's called Distorted Solo. Originally, I had thrown some of the solo track audio into here and wanted this big, giant, gross, trashed sound, and I ended up pulling back on that a bit because it was just too much. But what I am using here for this is another iZotope plugin. So this is a distortion plugin, and it is wild. I actually haven't wrapped my head exactly around all the stuff it can do yet, but it is fantastic for preset surfing if you want to dirty up something. So let's find out what we're dirtying up. All right, that is a reversed instance of one of the video game's hit sounds from track 1, and it repeats again here. I'm using it as a way to build intrigue as we move into a new section. Terrific. All right. You can tell we're modulating the frequency here. I'm going to turn the auto filter off just so you can see how nasty this trash plugin is making things. All right. That's with it off. Also on this channel, this is, I think, where the breakdown happens near the end, are these vocal pad things, which were from the Massive Attack track as well. So I'm automating the auto filter here and switching back and forth between the hard left and hard right channel. But since it's a group, Trash is processing the whole thing. And then we have an EQ to manage some of the harsh high ends and some of the muddy low ends there. VG Sounds is those little ARPy hits on the first of the beat. What I've done here is added more delay, so that echo that you hear. And it's panning left and right, so it just makes the delay bigger. The echo is bigger. I'm using the glue compressor to not only compress the initial hit, but also compress the tail, which means that the delay will ring out longer. And then I'm actually sending it to the convolution, reverb, and to the delay again as sends. Nothing crazy else going on there. More solo. Let's see what's going on here. So this is the track from the PO28 robot that I used as a solo. It's got that clip transposition pitch processing going on to make it slide around. And it's got more compression, some management of the high end and low end frequencies, and a chorus to make it sparkle in the stereo field. It's also got a fair amount of delay and a fair amount of the convolution reverb on it. The build channel is dedicated to the modulating pitch pad things that I did in the OP1. So I've got those doubled, hard panned left and right, and then one of them is going to be transposed up an octave, as so, and the other one is not. So that takes a mono signal and makes it, in a way, super wide and super stereo. It's one way of stereoizing something. It is not the only way to do it. So throughout we have that happening to build into either a breakdown or into a new section. Pads. I love pads. Pads, pads, pads. So you can hear that sliding around. We've got pitch transposition up and down octaves. Let's see what we got going on up here. All right, so we do have an auto filter on here, and opening up the auto filter is what's giving us that sort of rise sound. I wanted to make room for the solo in this section, and while I wanted something sustained, and these pads fit that job, I felt like they were taking up too much of the frequency spectrum that I wanted the solo to be in, and there was just too much going on. So I used the auto filter to filter through that and kind of make them sit in the background a little bit. This one has its own convolution reverb going on, pretty wet, and it's a weird IR that it's being used here. An IR is an impulse response. It's what a convolution reverb uses to make a reverb sound. And you can feed it anything, really. Like, you can make some very weird sounds by feeding a convolution reverb a wave file that it thinks is an IR but isn't. So if you have this, I recommend trying that out. This is just a preset. And you can see it's not doing a ton, but it is adding this kind of neat stereoizing effect to it. Mono. Stereo. So cool. That's one of the reasons I love that plugin. It is very, very useful. All right, another track of pads here. More of that transposition modulation going on. Now, when I want to have a complex effect come in this case, I've changed an overdrive to a phaser. I'll drop it in an audio effect rack, and I will automate the on and off of that audio effect rack. And because audio effect racks are insanely modular and you can do all kinds of stuff, like you can turn on and off insane chains of effects by doing it this way. Oh, and the other advantage to it is that the chain volume can actually be set right here. So because I added an overdrive, I knew it was going to get really loud, so I dropped the volume of the chain. So when this turns on, I do get an overdrive effect and this cool phaser, but it doesn't blast my ears out with volume because I've turned the chain down here. So that's pretty cool. All right, that vocal pad that I ran through the distortion channel is down here a little bit more dry. Oh wait, no, I lied. It's not dry at all. Okay, more overdrive, this time focusing down the low, 50% wet, filtering out the highs and all the lows because there was a lot of bass there. Another phaser, and this is another way you can stereoize something. I think I might have shown this off before. But if you drop a simple delay, or any delay that has the ability to independently manipulate the left and the right channel, take it out of sync mode, so it's not doing beats, it's doing time in milliseconds. Make it all the way wet, and then if these were both at 1, what we're doing is delaying both the left and the right signal 1 millisecond. But if I start changing this, I'm now delaying the left and the right signal at different amounts. Mono. Stereo. Mono. Stereo. So that's another way I tend to stereoize things. You know, with the exception of the drums up here, all of this is just stuff from the OP1 manipulated, but effects and crashes and what do you call them? Like sweeps, the kind of riser effects that we associate with like IDM to build interest and build a section. Those are harder to do in the OP1 for me because I kind of have to either plan for them or design them from scratch, and it's just easier for me to do them in Ableton. So this effects track is full of those kinds of things, that crashes, just samples that I have lying around. It's a whale. That throughout the track, just to add interest, like here's a big rise kind of thing. So yeah, that's it. I'm probably gonna have more questions from people about most of the stuff I just went through, and I'm happy to answer them if you'd like that. But that is Lugent, and I really appreciate you taking the time to walk through this with me. I hope it's been informative, and take care.